Okay, so let's talk about the cost of buying property. So if you cast your mind back 5 years to the pandemic, there were I suppose benefits or reductions in thresholds to stamp duty land tax which were introduced to try and encourage the property market to get moving at a time whenever there was real fear that it was going to come to a screeching standstill, which would have a massive impact on the recession. So at that point, the stamp duty land tax threshold at which you start to pay stamp duty was reduced from £250,000 to £125,000, meaning that for the first £250,000 value of a property you pay no stamp duty tax at all. So from the 1st of April this year, 2025, that has reverted back to £125,000. So that means that for any property, the value between £125,000 and £250,000 is now taxed at 2%. So there's a 2% tax on that. So £2,500 essentially. So the other thresholds haven't changed except for first-time buyers, and I'll come back to that in a minute. So the other thresholds are that the property value between £250,000 and £925,000, you pay stamp duty land tax at 5%. Then between that 925 and 1.5 million, you pay it at 10%. Anything over the 1.5 million, you pay at 12%. So obviously that's on the tranche that's within that banding, so to speak. So any property that is has a value greater than £250,000 will now be paying an additional £2,500 worth of stamp duty land tax. Now for first-time buyers, things are slightly different, and first-time buyers have always had a bit of additional support to try and encourage, I suppose, young people into the housing market and to buying property. Now at the moment there's a first-time buyers discount and slightly higher thresholds. So again, from earlier times, that was £425,000. So any property valued up to or sold for up to £425,000 wouldn't attract any stamp duty land tax if you were first-time property owner, first-time buyer. Now that threshold has reduced to £300,000. So once you hit a value of more than £300,000, you're going to start paying 5% stamp duty land tax on anything above the £300,000. But there was also an additional sort of max price for this first time buyers discount. So that means that previously you could buy anything from, well, under £425,000, you'd pay no stamp duty land tax, and then if you went up as high as £625,000 for this first time home, then you would you'd only pay that 5% on the £200,000 between 425 and 625, if that makes sense. Now what they've changed is that they've reduced also this max price to £500,000. So it means that you start paying 5% stamp duty land tax at £300,000, and again it's just on that £200,000 element. But if your first time property costs more than £500,000, actually you don't get any first time buyers discount at all. So you flip into that, starting to pay 2% at £125,000, etc., which I mentioned at the start of this. Hopefully that all makes sense. I've not mentioned if you've got a second property. I've not mentioned if you have investments or other properties going on. We'll touch on that in a different video, but I hope that helps you plan and calculate ahead.